call commerce to order. We're going to start until some more members get here. First off, we're going to hear is Representative Murphy's House Committee substitute for House Bill 184. And I want to ask everybody today, most of these bills we've heard or part of them, and we're going to try to get through a lot in an hour. And so hold your testimony to a minute and a half if you can. And we will move through this and go to executive session as soon as we have more members here. With that, Representative Murphy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jim Murphy from District 94, South St. Louis County. As you've duly noted, you've heard this once before, I think this session from Senator Brown. It's my electric charging station bill. Basically, it comes about because of my belief that the local ordinances on electric charging stations is premature. We have only 5% of electric vehicles in the nation being sold at this point. In the state of Missouri, there are 10,000 electric vehicles and there are 480,000 gasoline-powered vehicles. The ordinances that have been put forth have no regulations as to who can park in those spaces. They have no regulations on who would be responsible for upgrading them. They have no regulation as to if there's going to be charges for them. At any rate, it's way premature, and it's a burden on our small businesses. Many businesses have come to me.
Any senator have questions? Senator Mosley.
How you doing?
Proceed.
What reason did you carve out the other areas?
There was some pushback from the committee on that. They felt like it was only a problem in those areas, so we should only be addressing it in that area.
Any other questions? Sorry. Senator Mosley? I'm missing something here. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. First person, please, to testify in favor of the bill, please.
Thompson Rehder. Trent.
We have a quorum. Ron, proceed.
Mr. Chair,
We're hearing right now, House Committee substitute for House Bill 184, if you just got here. So go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Ron Leone. I'm the Executive Director for the Missouri Petroleum and Convenience Association. What that means is I represent many of your constituents who own and operate gas stations, convenience stores, and truck stops. Mr. Chairman, I will be careful in the 1 minute context you're trying to keep all testimony, but I want to note that I don't think this bill is about the pros and cons of electric vehicles or electric vehicle charging stations. To my association, it's about the proper scope, role, and function of government. Mandates, especially motor fuel mandates, at the local level are almost always a bad idea and are far beyond the proper scope, role, and function of local government. If the customers of a mall or a drugstore or department store or the tenants of an apartment complex want electric vehicle charging stations, I can guarantee you that the free market will supply those electric vehicle charging stations without any sort of government mandate. For us, the bottom line is that the installation of EV charging stations should be left up to private businesses and the free market, taking into account competition, raising private capital, supply, and most importantly, customer demand. I know you've heard this from me before, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here today.
Thank you, Ron. Questions for this witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Next in favor, please come forward.
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, my name is David Overfelt, and today I'm representing Associated Industries of Missouri, Missouri Retailers Association, Missouri Tire Industry Association, and the Missouri Grocers Association. We are in favor of the bill. We believe the free market should decide, and frankly, a number of my members do put 1 or 2 stations in, but we do it at our own dime if we do it voluntarily. If we're going to have a mandate with so many units, frankly, the government should pay.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you, Dave. Anybody else in favor? Anybody opposed? Please come forward. And please fill out a witness form, everybody, and leave it on the table.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Berg, and I'm here representing the Sierra Club Missouri chapter. And we see this as an attack on the ability of local government to make policy to improve the well-being, improve the air for its constituents. This is the first I'm hearing of the carve-out, which I think actually makes the bill worse, because a lot of the problems with the bill is that it negates the ability for there's a lot of incentives for EV charging station rules along EV charging station from the federal government, from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act that passed I think last year, the year before, and there's money there, and so this bill would make that available to the entire state except St. Louis City and St. Louis County, which would be prohibited from doing many of the things needed to make that happen. There's also part of the bill that would not allow mandates for charging infrastructure at public schools, which could undermine localities' ability to support clean, zero-emission school bus, and which a lot of school districts are trying to do in order to protect their students from diesel fumes and the problems in the air. So, and also St. Louis City, I did not heard a lot of complaints about what's going on there. So the details in St. Louis County, that should be a matter for St. Louis County, and it's really unfair to put this on two counties and make it so that they can't take actions to protect the air and well-being and prepare for a future that is coming of electric vehicles.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. The next opposed, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate, and I'm opposed to this bill. I was against it in the House, testified against it in the House. In my opinion, this is the way of the future. This is a corporate responsibility to provide needed services for the future. This has a local control element and takes away local control. Takes away local zoning regulations. Chapter 89 of the revised state statute would null and void charging stations before the Planning and Zoning Commission of cities and counties across the state. It would null and void site plan improvements that are required under Chapter 89 in most cities who have zoning regulations across the state. Let's be reasonable here. This bill is spanking St. Louis County. The bill sponsor is trying to make a point here, and I'm adamantly opposed to HCS HB184. I think St. Louis County, they're big boys and big girls there. They can decide if they want to require charging stations or not. And this is a political fight between the state and a charter form of government in St. Louis County. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Next in opposition, please go forward. And I want to thank everybody. You're doing a really good job keeping it brief.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Earl Scissors, Executive Director of Electrify Missouri. We advocate for EV readiness and EV infrastructure. Especially we work closely with municipalities to help them out because they're experiencing issues where the only thing they want to avoid is people running extension cords out to the streets and out to the street corners. And there's all kinds of hazards involved with people taking matters into their own hands with this. They want just basic basic regulation to manage what they have and what they think is coming forward. We know all the auto manufacturers are shifting to hybrid or all electric within the next decade, and so some of these municipalities are just trying to be forward thinking. We advise them just to lay the conduit, run the wires. You want your houses, you want your new developments to be cable ready. You just want them to be ready should to attract new businesses and new residences if they want to bring their electric vehicles on site.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Next in opposition. Anybody for information purposes only? That will conclude the hearing on House Committee Substitute for House Bill 184. Next, I'd like to go into executive session. We have 5 bills I'd like to exec on today. And so if I make a motion that we go into executive session. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are in executive session. Senator Coleman is here, so let's go to, if we can, I'd like to bring, let's see, which one is she? Here we are. Senate Bill 533 before the committee. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Senate Bill 533 is before the committee. This is the bill we heard last week, I believe, about the accounting for facilities that are locally assessed in counties with a term they call Makers 20. And I believe Senator Coleman's here if anybody has any follow-up questions, but I'd like to vote this out. Any discussion?
This is the bill that's bringing it, whether real property or personal property, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
And that's on the storage facilities.
It's pipelines and utility lines that are locally assessed, not centrally assessed by the state.
Yes, and this bill is doing what, making them what?
It's using,
That's personal property instead of real property.
well, that's going to be determined, I think, on the floor, but what it's doing is saying there's a standard that all counties will use when they assess this property.
Okay.
Any other discussion? So I move that we do pass Senate Bill 533. Do I have a second? Michelle, will you call the vote?
Senator Cierpiot,
Aye.
Fitzwater, Bean, Bernskoetter, Brown, Esslinger, May, McCreary, Mosley, Thompson Rehder, Trent. By your vote of 10-0, we have, you have voted do pass Senate Bill 533. I next move that we bring Senate Bill 414 before the committee. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Senate Bill 414 is before the committee. We have a Senate sub. I believe everybody has that Senate sub. And I move that we adopt Senate Committee sub for Senate Bill 414. Do I have a second? For discussion, this is Senator Rowden's bill about propane tanks. If you remember, he had a problem last year with the propane company, I guess, disappeared, and some people had tanks owned by that company. They couldn't get them filled by others. This allows that to happen. The Senate Committee sub has got some language in it about the about liability, but it's to do with not public safety as much as just making sure they're not liable for filling somebody else's tank. Everybody have the sub, I guess, and sees that? Okay. Any discussion on this? Senator McQuarrie. That's mine. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted my colleagues to know I've been working with the bill sponsor on tweaking the language as it relates to liability. So I think with a sub moving forward, we're going to add as long as a reasonable degree of care is used when refilling. So it's fairly non-controversial language, but I think it protects the industry overall. So,
I agree.
Thank
So
you.
and I know people, I know you're still working on that, so I think once it gets to the floor, we'll be able to do more. Any other discussion? Seeing none. So I've already made the motion to adopt the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Next, I'd like to move that we do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 414. Do I have a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Senator Cierpiot.
Aye.
Fitzwater. Bean. Bernskoetter. Brown. Esslinger. May.
Yes.
McCreary. Mosley. Thompson Rehder. Trent.
By your vote of 10 to nothing, 10 to 0, we have voted to do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 414. I now move that we bring Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 481 before the committee. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We are now, Senate Bill 481 is before the committee. This bill also has Senate Committee sub, and it has been distributed. And this is the bill we heard I think last week that Senator Rehder has about mining. The Senate Committee sub, Senator Rehder, would you like to talk us through the Senate Committee sub?
Yes, it was just a technical change to make sure that we were using the exact same lines as the House bill.
Okay.
Come from committee, and it was, we just wanted to reference the 16 USC 500 and, the exact same way that they had referenced.
Okay.
So that was the only change.
Okay. So I move that we adopt the Senate Committee sub for Senate Bill 481. Do I have a second? Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I now move that we adopt Senate Committee sub for Senate Bill 481. Do I have a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none. Michelle, will you call the roll?
Senator Cierpiot.
Aye.
Fitzwater. Bean. Bernskoetter. Brown. Esslinger. May. McCreary. Mosley. Thompson Rehder. Trent.
By your vote of 10 to nothing, you have voted do pass Senate Committee sub for Senate Bill 481. Next up, we'll do Senate Bill 395. I move that we bring 395 before the committee. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Senate Bill 395 is before the committee. This also has a Senate Committee substitute. This is one that was brought forth by Senator Bernskoetter. Let me make a motion first that we adopt Senate Committee sub for Senate Bill 395. Do I have a second? Discussion. Senator Bernskoetter, would you like to explain the?
So the bill is just extending certain natural resource fees, but we put in there that that DNR could not do anything without promulgating regulations. It was worked out between DNR and AIM. So
Any questions? Senator McCray.
Could you say it was worked out between
DNR and AIM,
AIM? Okay, so what,
Associated Industries.
so what problem are you trying to solve with that addition?
I'm not trying to solve any problem.
What problem are they trying to
You know,
solve?
they don't want DNR to do anything without actually going through the rulemaking process.
You mean the joint committee on administrative rules? That process?
Well, we know in the past that DNR has done stuff that didn't always go through the rulemaking process.
And was it a standalone bill, this part that we're inserting in the sub?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none. I've already made the motion that we adopt the Senate Committee sub for Senate Bill 395. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I now move that we do pass Senate Committee sub for Senate Bill 395. Do I have a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none. Michelle, call the roll.
Senator Cierpiot.
Aye.
Fitzwater. Bean. Bernskoetter. Brown. Esslinger. May. McCreary. Mosley. Thompson Rehder. Trent.
By a vote of 9-1, we have voted to pass Senate Committee Sub for Senate Bill 395. Next up, and the last one, will be the House Committee Sub for House Bill 184, which is the bill we just heard. And there's also a Senate Committee Sub on that. First of all, I move that we bring the House Committee Sub for House Bill 184 before the committee. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. We have now got House Committee Sub for House Bill 184 before the committee. As I said, we have a Senate Committee Sub for this bill, and the representative talked about it a little bit. It mostly is just,
Is it a Senate companion bill?
no, we heard this a couple weeks ago with Senator Brown, but he has agreed just to work off of the House bill now that it's over here. And so it's got the gist of it is his stuff with the ban on counties doing this. It's pulled back, so it's just St. Louis County and St. Louis City now.
So, why is it St. Louis City? We had,
Yeah, I'll let Ben, would you like, I'm sorry, Senator Brown, would you like to explain this?
involved in
Well, that was part of compromise language that limited to just the St. Louis area, where it seems to be the immediate problem. I can't speak to what policies are coming in other areas of the state. I can speak to my personal experience as a business owner in the area, and in addition to facing record rates of inflation, price fluctuations, the current labor crisis, just trying to find people to work and keep your doors open is a challenge. And even in cases to where, in my restaurant, we don't own the property, we're located in the strip mall, but if these policies are allowed to go forward, the cost of installing just a single level 3 electric vehicle charger is $60,000. And if you multiply that by 5, 10, 20 chargers, we're talking about a price tag anywhere from $300,000 to $1.2 million. That's not just paid by the property owner. That's all passed on to the small business owners that are just trying to make it month to month, that have been arguably hit hardest in the St. Louis area throughout COVID because of the restrictions that were a little more strict than you saw in other areas of the state. I'll also comment on someone made the comment about building codes, and local areas should be allowed to make their own building codes, but building codes, what they're really about, they're about health and safety. These policies protect neither. These policies are more about subsidizing a segment of the auto market and the government picking winners or losers, which I don't think that's really in the proper role of government.
Senator May, do you have any other questions?
No, I mean, I don't, no. We'll fight it on the floor.
Senator Trent?
Just to inquire real briefly here, you said this was compromise language. Who didn't? Who were the parties that we compromised with on this?
Me.
Yes, whoever knows the answer to that.
I do. It
Oh,
was me.
oh, you were the one. Okay. Well, that could you elaborate perhaps on
Sure.
why you think this shouldn't be statewide?
Senator Brown and I, because I have a stronger feeling than some about local control. I think local governments, we have taken control of some areas, and this is just one that I'm not sure it's need be. Now, if this passes, in 3 years, I may be down here saying I need to do something for Jackson County, but I haven't seen that yet. I know that St. Louis County I've heard from a lot of people that they feel like there's an overreach, and I just don't know that is ripe yet statewide.
Is there any concern that
I'm more reacting to my area kind of a thing.
is there any
Senator Trent?
Is there any concern that that this could be, especially with a bill like this could be viewed as a taking in the places where there is no state reimbursement for these kind of expenses?
That's I don't know, Senator Trent. I honestly don't. That's a valid point, and I imagine on the floor we'll probably work through that quite seriously.
That's probably the case. All right, I was just curious about the backstory on that. I appreciate those answers. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
But I would like to exempt St. Louis City on the floor.
That would not surprise me. So I'll let you all handle that when you get to the floor, okay? So I move that we adopt the Senate Committee sub for House Committee sub for House Bill 184. Do I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I now move that we do pass Senate Committee sub for House Committee sub for House Bill 184. Do I have a second? Any other discussion? Seeing none. Michelle, call a roll.
Senator Cierpiot.
Aye.
Fitzwater. Bean. Bernskoetter. Brown. Esslinger. May. McCreary. Mosley. Trent. 7-3.
By your vote of 7-3, we have voted to pass the Senate Committee sub for House Committee sub for House Bill 184. That's it, right? I move we leave executive session. Can I have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? We are out of executive session. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Next up, we'll do Senate Bill 638 by Senator Fitzwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Travis Fitzwater, Senate District 10, bringing before you Senate Bill 638, which is basically bringing gas corporations in line with electric corporations. Rather simple bill when you take it in context of utilities. Basically, we're just providing a process for economic development tools for larger users of gas in the state of Missouri. Again, this just kind of aligns with what electric corporations currently do, gives the commission some authority through rate-making case to ensure that this isn't out of control, and allows for us to expand opportunities for businesses to grow in the state. So certain businesses that use a ton of gas can apply for these economic incentive development rates, or even more so, large users that we want to encourage, which we do through economic development all the time, to come to Missouri and use and build businesses here if they use a large portion of gas. They will also be offered an economic development rate over the first 4 years of their usage if it's approved. So glad to answer any questions, but this is just giving gas corporations the kind of the same benefit of EDR that electric corporations currently have.
Thank you. Questions for this, for Senator Fitzwater? Seeing none. First, coming up in support, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Larry Ploy, Spire, Missouri Natural Gas. Just to provide a little context around the bill, it's a 25% discount, I think, over 5 years. And the difference between a natural gas corporation, an electrical corporation, and a water corporation to a lesser extent is that these larger customers buy their own gas. So we're talking about a smaller portion of the bill that would qualify for this discount. You're looking at more of maybe a 10 to 12% discount on the overall bill, because most of these customers qualify to buy their own gas. It is a deregulated market upstream in the gas industry. The other thing that I might discuss real quickly is when you look at the numbers, 135,000 CCF, 270,000 on the high end, those are large industrial processors. They are also large campuses, maybe someone that's got an Amazon facility or maybe a large distribution facility or a large hospital. And then when you get into smaller sizes, you're looking at, maybe school systems are allowed to aggregate, mid-sized hospitals, assisted living, nursing homes. So just to give you some concept of that. And their overall bill right now in the marketplace for those customers that are using 270,000 CCF, if you were all in on all requirements, you're probably looking at a bill of about $240,000 a year. And if you're 135,000 CCF, you're probably looking at a bill that's around 120,000. So just to give you some type of quantity as to who would qualify for these bills, would be wonderful if you could attract something like an anhydrous ammonia plant to this state, which is one that is a key component in the processing of corn crop. It would be wonderful if we could get one of those facilities here, because the magnitude of it and the facility would be substantial to the economic development. those are all just relative references for the committee. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Just for my information, in the world of energy, a megawatt is equal how many CCFs?
Oh, you're challenging my math. I'm gonna have to get back with you. No, it's 3 point. I'm gonna have to get back with you.
Okay. I'm just curious because we did this for like Nucor.
Right.
I'm just trying to see because I was
The best way to break these things. Sorry, Senator. Go ahead.
well, when I saw these numbers, 270,000. It seems to me I use well over 1,000 in my house. I just was thinking that's not that big of a customer. Maybe it is.
Yeah, on a relative gas scale, there's a pretty good size customer. So normally when you look at these comparisons on electric to gas, you look at BTUs. And I think per watt it's 3.43 BTUs or something, and then I'd have to get back into the CCF side of that.
Okay.
But that's kind of how you break down the comparison on a heat content, and that comes back to the BTUs.
Now, if you're a big guy and you want to take advantage of this, but you're buying your gas independently, you're buying it on the competitive market.
Right.
What does this do for you then? Because you're just delivering it then, right?
Right. It's just, as I tried to mention earlier, and maybe I wasn't clear, it's a reduction basically in the delivery cost to the customer
Okay.
because they buy their own gas.
Okay.
Most of them do. Sometimes we provide gas to them, but it's a competitive market.
Okay. Thank you. Senator McCurry.
Oh.
Could you share an example of how something like this would be used to convince a business to use gas versus electric or, other forms of technology? Is that part of what this is about?
That is a good question, but in terms of the processes, those businesses, it's a competitive analysis, and you have some industrial processes that we're going to use electricity in the plant. I use an old term, and when the Randa facility was around, they used electricity in that pot melting process.
Right.
Significant use of electricity. Now, if you're making cement, which is it's a significant product in this state that a lot of people don't know about down the eastern seaboard, you probably use in the clinker process, you probably would use natural gas. When you're looking at large temperature quantities, you're probably looking at natural gas. And then when you get into some of the finer control points, you're probably looking at. But these industrial process people, they know what works best for them.
So-
Kind of like a chef knows what works best for him in cooking.
Cooking would be gas for sure.
That's correct. Yeah. I'm biased, but yes.
Well, I'm biased too. So this incentive wouldn't be the business in whatever industry. They already know what they want to use.
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
I'd say 95% of the time they know what they're looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, Larry. Next, in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, David Wynn here on behalf of both Summit Utilities and Liberty Utilities. Want to go on record in support of this legislation. Appreciate the committee's time and effort on this.
That's
I
it.
have nothing to add over what
That's it?
my colleagues conspired.
Thank you. Anybody questions for this? Thank you.
I
sir.
was told brevity.
Yes. Good
Mr.
job.
Chairman, very briefly, David Overfelt for Associated Industries of Missouri, and we do support this incentive to put in our economic development tool sheet.
Thank you. Any questions for David? Seeing none, thank you. Next in favor?
Good afternoon. Kara Corches on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, also in support. Also just want to echo what Mr. Ployce said about Senator McCurry's question. Businesses know kind of what energy source they want to use and what works best in their facility, like a manufacturer. A lot of times they're going to rely on water or gas, and they're going to look for the states that offer that. This is not going to convince them to change their manufacturing line. They're looking for plug and play, what works.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. I hope everybody's leaving a witness for him. I've been watching. Next in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Zach Monroe with Ameren, Missouri, to go on record in support of the bill. To answer your question, Mr. Chairman, it is 34 CCF equals 1 megawatt hour of electricity.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Anybody else in favor, please come forward. Anybody in opposition?
Good afternoon. Name same as the previous bill. Michael Berg representing the Missouri Sierra Club, and we just want to go on record against this bill simply for the fact that it incentivizes through lower costs the burning of more natural gas, which is a fossil fuel pollutant, which is contributing to climate change, and we think the incentives should go for cleaner burning fuels and energy efficiency and renewables.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Arnie A.C. Dienoff, State Public Advocate, and it's kind of a joke that this is economic development. This is special interest legislation targeting some companies across the state to get a special rate, a special discount of 25% over 5 years, placing the difference on the backs of Missouri consumers, which is hypocritical and unfortunate. Raising taxes, raising utility bills, raising cost of living across Missouri is hampering Missouri families. This is very unfair legislation, picking winners while Missouri consumers lose. There is not any free lunch, and Missouri consumers will have to make up the 25% discount given to targeted special interest corporate welfare. That's my testimony, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for being brief. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Next in opposition, please come forward. Anybody for information purposes? That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 638. There you are. Next, we will hear Senate Bill 567. Senator, why don't you take over?
No, you're definitely getting cut off. Senator, proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Mike Cierpiot from the 8th Senate District in Jackson County, here to present Senate Bill 567. Currently, the definition of a large water public utility is using a threshold of more than 8,000 customer connections. Utilities meeting this definition are allowed to use a fair market assessed value assessment of the water utility property during acquisitions. The purpose of this statute is to allow large public utilities to obtain struggling systems to provide more efficient critical infrastructure operations, which is necessary to offer long-term improvements to the communities. However, there is an ambiguity on whether the 8,000 threshold counts water and wastewater customers separately or combined. Recently, during an acquisition case, the PSC interpreted the law to require utilities to count water and wastewater separately. This bill would clarify the statute so that the large water public utility designation would apply to any water public utility in Missouri that has more than 8,000 water, wastewater, or combined water, wastewater customers. The language would have no impact beyond this change and would not impact customers. This change does not give the utility the ability to change rates without PSC approval based on the actual investments. This bill contains one other provision. This provision would set a time limit of 6 months on the PSC when considering an application by a large water public utility to approve an acquisition of 1,000 or fewer customers, and only for 1,000 or fewer water customers. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. You went over your 1 minute allotted time, but I held off on the gavel
I
there for
really,
you.
really appreciate that.
Any questions for the Senator? Senator McCrick, go ahead.
I was reading as fast as I could.
Please, if you have testimony written, if you could just send it to the committee, that would help out.
I'll do that next time. I'll do that next time.
I have a question based on the fiscal note. So,
I just saw that today, and I'm
Okay.
assuming it's PSC. I don't know.
well, my concern is that putting that 6-month timeline in there, the fiscal note says that depending on the level of detail and the size of the acquisition, it could take 9 to 12 months or longer to make a decision. So I'm wondering if that's something we could just look at.
We will. I think there's concern because sometimes they take much longer, and this is only for the very small customer. I mean, for the acquisitions of 1,000 or less.
Right.
And so we'll actually work with you and talk to PSC and see if we can get some language going forward on that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, anybody here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 567?
Good afternoon. David Woodsmall from Confluence River Utility Operating Company testifying in support of SB567. Confluence River is the Missouri operating affiliate of Central States Water Resources. Central States' mission statement is to bring safe, reliable, environmentally responsible water resources to every community in the United States. Through its 70 employees at its St. Louis headquarters, Central States has now purchased over 800 distressed water and wastewater systems in 11 states. Through Confluence River, it now owns and operates 68 water and wastewater systems in Missouri and is in the process of acquiring 12 more. In recent years, the General Assembly has sought to encourage the very efforts that Confluence River is undertaking. In 2013, Section 393.320 was enacted. That statute provides the ability for an acquiring company to use appraisals to set a rate-making rate base. That statute, however, contains a threshold that says you have to have more than 8,000 water or wastewater customers. As the chairman said, Commission has interpreted this to mean you have to have either 8,000 water or 8,000 wastewater. So this very statute that Confluence River seeks to use so that it can acquire these troubled systems is being denied to it. Second piece of legislation was enacted in 2021. That legislation is called WSRA. The mechanism allows for surcharges between rate cases to account for investment made between rate cases. Again, same threshold applies, 8,000 water or wastewater customers. But given the Commission's interpretation, it has been interpreted to mean 8,000 water or 8,000 wastewater. So again, Confluence River has been shut out. Confluence River applauds the chairman for introducing SB567. That bill will make these statutory mechanisms available to utilities like Confluence River. The legislation is a win for all parties. It is a win for customers that will now be confident that in their water and wastewater service that they are receiving. The legislation is a win for the environment that is currently suffering from the discharge of wastewater that exceeds permitted limits. And the legislation is a win for utilities like Confluence River that is seeking to acquire these troubled systems. Given the positive nature of this legislation, it was heard in the House Utilities Committee about 3 weeks ago and passed out of Utilities Committee unanimously. Given this, Confluence River urges the committee to vote in favor of SB 567. I'm available for any questions you may
Any
have.
questions for this witness? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of the Senate bill?
Mr. Chairman, David Wynn here on behalf of Liberty Utilities. Want to go on record in support of the legislation. Thank Mr. Woodsmall for giving that explanation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you.
you,
Anybody
Mr. Chairman.
else here to testify in favor? Please make sure you fill out witness forms for our records.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Jim Foley, represent Missouri American Water, and more particularly on the section dealing with the 6-month approval of the acquisitions. I just want to remind the committee that prior to the PSC even getting it, it's going to be, public hearings are on the local level. They're going through the board. Board has to approve it even before it gets to PSC. Then there actually has to have votes from the people. So this is not something they're going to be getting on their plate right on day one. This is going to go through a long process to get to that point where the PSC gets it. So thank you and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Foley? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further testimony in favor?
Kara Korches on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. Just want to go on record in support.
Questions for the chamber? Hearing none, thank you. Anybody else here to testify in favor? Anybody here for opposition?
John Kaufman, it's not, okay. John Kaufman here on behalf of the Consumers Council of Missouri. We are testifying in opposition, although we have no problem with the acquisition language. We do certainly appreciate the utilities that are trying to take these troubled systems causing environmental problems and trying to give those customers better service. Our opposition is related to the what I call WSIRA. Other people pronounce it differently, but it's the surcharge WSIRA that Missouri American Water is now allowed to charge, and it is not consumer friendly. It's sure you've heard me talk about it before, about the drawbacks and why it's not a fair way to charge ratepayers. My concern is that with these smaller utilities, if they're allowed to also charge the Wissera, it will be a much bigger percentage impact on them because the economy of scale is smaller. And so I think that the rate shock could be severe. So that's our concern, is just not expanding further a surcharge that we don't think is fair. That's it.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for testimony. Further opposition to Senate Bill 567.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C., AC Dinoff, State Public Advocate, and I'm opposed to this legislation. This is legislation that allows for fraud and abuse. I want to bring to the attention of the committee, and I need some help here to rectify this. Water commissioners are supposed to get a fee of $200 per meeting. There's some abuse in the St. Charles County Public Water District Number 2, where they have decided to form a shell company, and it's called the East Central Water and Sewer Authority. It escapes all rules and regulations of the Missouri Public Utility Commission, escapes all rules and regulations of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and for a 30-minute meeting per month, these 7 members, which the law only allows 5 members, they pay themselves $1,500 monthly base salary, which can be documented through the financials, which I have requested under Chapter 610 of the Revised State Statutes of Missouri. Then they pay themselves $200 for every board meeting at the East Central Water and Sewer Authority. Then they pay themselves $200 for a closed meeting, $200 for a Zoom special meeting during the month, and then these water commissioners go down to 5 members under the water district and pay themselves other fees allowable under law. This is criminal in nature. They cater meals. They give themselves other benefits, such as trips, such as potential medical benefits, and other giveaways. These are criminal. I believe that the state auditor should be involved, the attorney general, the county prosecutor, the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and an investigation by the Missouri Public Service Commission. And these are all on the backs of utility customers in the East Central Water and Sewer Authority, of which amounts to less than 1,200 customers. And so I beg upon you and plead upon you as committee members and senators to fix this law and to stop the abuses and the criminal activity in St. Charles County Public Water District Number 2, where they formed a shell company to pay themselves exorbitant fees and salary in the company called the East Central Water and Sewer Authority. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Any further testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 567? Seeing none, for informational purposes only. That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 567. Senator Cierpiot, any closing remarks? We're done. I've been told we're done.